Good afternoon and welcome to Rotary. We're pleased to have Natalie Kelinske, Director of Communications and Donor Services at Waco Foundation, return to Waco Rotary this year to speak about end-of-year giving issues. As a reminder, we're engaging in much of our usual routine online, and we hope hearing our national anthem, saying the pledge, and praying together helps to put you in the spirit of serving in Rotary. We hope you enjoy this rendition of the national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In recognition of Veterans Day last week and all the Rotarians who served our country, as we look forward to giving thanks in the coming weeks, please join with me in the prayer. Many of our countrymen gave their todays for our tomorrows. Let us remember the sacrifices they made so we may enjoy our peaceful days here together. We thank you, Lord, that we are here to say thank you. Amen. Next, we have student guests. As a reminder to Waco Rotary, we actually are getting videos from the students. We're hearing from some great seniors. I've been so pleased to hear from seniors from the various high schools. We have, what we do is we send a video and a flyer to the students so they're familiarized with civic clubs and what Waco Rotary is. And then we get to hear from them and hear about the things that they're doing for our community and what they're looking forward to. So our students today are from Axtell High School. We want to thank Susie Pagel and the committee for arranging for these videos.
Angel Ramirez, I'm from Axtell High School. I'm the daughter of Terry and Daniel Ramirez, and my school activities are Student Council, FFA, NHS, varsity cheer, cross country, and track, and then I'm a Special Olympics partner. I have 301 hours of community service, and this is through the Heart of Texas Fair and Rodeo Sweetheart program, as well as I'm involved in my church youth program. And I plan on attending either Texas Tech or Baylor and majoring in either political science or communication, and then going on the pre-law track and then going into law.
Do we just have the one today? Okay, great. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to introduce Harry Harlick, who's going to serve as chair of the day. And just as a reminder to Rotarians, in our effort to network during this time where we can't get together, we're actually providing information and background on various Rotarians so that our newer members and those who may not be as familiar can learn a little bit about them. So we'll pull up the slide for Harry. A native Wacoan, Harry graduated from Richfield High School in Waco, later earning his bachelor's and master's in accounting from the University of Texas. He was a self-employed CPA for 30 years, then became executive director of the McLennan Community College Foundation for almost 16 years before retiring in January 2017 and handing over the helm to another Waco Rotarian, Kim Patterson. He has served in a number of professional organizations and on the boards of many local nonprofit organizations. He currently provides accounting consultation services to area organizations and writes occasional columns as a member of the board of contributors to the Waco Tribune-Herald. I know I enjoy reading Harry's editorials when he provides them. Those of us who have had the pleasure of working with Harry know how dedicated he is to this community, and we are glad to have him as a part of Waco Rotary. Harry, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce our speaker today.
Thanks, Ashley. It's my pleasure today to introduce Natalie Kelinske. Natalie graduated from Baylor University with a Bachelor of Arts in Journalism and Public Relations, and then joined the Waco Foundation in 2015 as the Director of Communications and Donor Services. Natalie's commitment to improving the lives of Central Texans developed from a passion to serve others. In a role at Waco Foundation, Natalie works with donors and community supporters to promote a culture of philanthropic giving to benefit our community. Natalie is the 2014 National Leadership Academy for the Public's Health Fellow and a 2008 graduate of Leadership Pipeline. She's a member of the West City Council and previously served on the Prosper Waco Health Steering Committee, chaired the Women's Health Work Group, and was a member of the West Hospital Authority Board. In her position at the Waco Foundation, she works with the Waco Foundation's Planned Giving program, which empowers donors to leave a lasting charitable legacy. Waco Foundation facilitates and accepts a variety of planned gifts, including bequests, beneficiary designations, and charitable trusts from generous individuals who are dedicated to ensuring a positive future for our community. When donors seek a planned giving option, they work with them and their professional advisors to facilitate a joyful and fulfilling experience that allows donors and their families to support the causes they care about for generations to come. I am delighted to introduce you to Natalie Kelinske.
Thank you so much, Harry. I am very happy to be here. And I do want to just disclose quickly that I told some folks earlier, I am quarantining with my 3-year-old and 5-year-old daughters. And this is unfortunately our third quarantine. We're all very healthy, but I've gotten pretty good at bribing them and they've gotten really good at negotiating their terms. So I feel like we won't have any interruptions, but I just wanted to share that just in case. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen and go through this presentation about planned giving. Can everyone see that okay? Just please stop me if you have any issues seeing it. But Waco Foundation, so most of you are probably familiar with the work of Waco Foundation. Our mission is to promote solutions to community challenges, strengthen nonprofits, engage philanthropists, and manage charitable assets. And we do this all to improve quality of life in McLennan County. Waco Foundation has been in existence for more than 60 years and have worked in a variety of ways to meet our mission. But today we're going to talk specifically about the philanthropic and charitable piece of our work.
Natalie, just before you go on, Natalie, we're not sharing your screen. We're not seeing your screen.
Let me try that again.
There we go.
Okay, good. Well, we tested it earlier. I'm so sorry, Tyler, I failed. So when we talk about empower or engaging philanthropists, we really are talking about working with our donors to help them achieve their charitable goals. So we frequently work with donors and their advisors to maximize giving. That can be just, your yearly contributions, or that can look like an estate gift or anywhere in between. And we spend a lot of our time partnering with our donors and their advisors to maximize their gifts. So that's really looking at things that are gifts other than cash. So talking about gifts of stock, gifts of business interests, donor advised funds, retirement assets, and then the last piece is Pi Society, which is our planned giving program that's really for the community. So I'll take each one of these and break them down and talk a little bit more specifically about what's different this year because of the CARES Act. So just to kind of talk about some highlights with the CARES Act and what that means for giving. You're probably familiar that the CARES Act passed earlier this year for COVID-19 pandemic relief. And a couple of things that I think some folks will want to take advantage of. One is the CARES Act created an above the line charitable deduction of up to $300 for donors who do not itemize their deductions. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind. It's an above line deduction against adjusted gross income. So that's brand new for the CARES Act, and it's only available in 2020. The CARES Act also increases the adjusted gross income limitation from 60% to 100% for donors who do itemize, and then from 10% to 25% for corporate donors. So for donors who are looking to give a very big gift this year maybe, and they don't need their income, that AGI limit increase from 60% to 100% could benefit them. Again, we're talking about larger gifts. Donors who maybe have been planning something for a while, this could be a good year to do that, because again, in order to qualify for any of these increased limits, it has to be made in 2020. So by December 31st, 2020, in order to qualify for these specific provisions. And specifically, Ashley mentioned earlier that there are many, many generous Rotarians who are charitable in our community. And so a couple of options for giving within Rotary, I know are the Youth Service Fund, Paul Harris Fellows, and then the Rotary Scholarship Fund that's managed by Waco Foundation. So those are just options within Rotary where donors could take advantage of some of the provisions from the CARES Act that I just reviewed. We're going to kind of break it down, those different pieces that we looked at, gifts of stock, donor advised funds, et cetera. I'm going to go through each one of those and talk a little bit more about that. So some of these are very specific to 2020, and some of these are available any year and something that you could potentially start thinking about for a future. So for gifts of stock and business interest, this is a pretty popular way for donors to give, especially at the end of the year as they're kind of finalizing their tax preparations. So a donor can avoid capital gains tax by donating appreciated stocks, bonds, or mutual funds that they've held long-term, so more than 1 year, to a nonprofit. So the donor is able to claim a federal income tax charitable deduction for the full market value of the security, rather than the lesser amount that they originally paid for the security. So the important piece of this, though, is that the donor has to give the stock directly to charity. If the donor sells the stock themselves, they will trigger a taxable event and you'll lose the benefit there. We do have cases often at the end of the year where a donor wants to give to a local nonprofit that may not have capacity to accept stock. So just actually today, we finalized a transaction where a donor donated stock to Waco Foundation. We liquidated it, and then we passed the proceeds on to the charity, the local charity that the donor requested. And that was because the charity just isn't large enough to have capacity to accept gifts of stock. So we are able to do that, and we don't charge any fees to that. And you can also donate directly to funds managed by Waco Foundation too. So there's a couple of really good options there. And then specifically for 2020, the CARES Act highlights an incentive for S-Corp stock donations. So this is a pretty unique opportunity the CARES Act did not change the 30% AGI limitation for non-cash donations. But the charity that the donor chooses could take advantage of the 1-year rule and receive 100% deduction against the income from the sale of the donated S-Corp stock. So the charity would actually receive more funds and have to pay less taxes against that. So I would say, we're getting pretty close to the end of the year, but if you are someone who holds S-Corp stock and you've been thinking about maybe gifting that or liquidating it, 2020 could be a really good year to do that if you want to include a charitable gift. So again, somewhat complex, but very, very doable. And actually you'll see in this picture of Ryan Gibson who's a local Waco donor, businessman, and philanthropist. And he did a gift of S Corp stock last year. So he wasn't able to take full advantage of this. But again, these complex gift transactions, Waco Foundation can help facilitate them and distribute the proceeds however the donor would like. So the next slide I want to go over is about donor advised funds. So this is by far probably our most popular way for folks to give. And you'll see Frank and Eleanor Levy here, who are longtime donor advised fund holders. When a donor opens a donor advised fund, it provides the donor with maximum flexibility to advise the distribution from that fund, that they receive the charitable deduction at the time they make the gift. So this is very popular right now. When the standard deduction increased a couple of years ago, folks started bundling their deductions. So they would bundle their property taxes and their charitable giving. And a donor advised fund can be a great tool for that. You can, let's say you give $25,000 a year in charitable contributions. You can in 1 year, so establish your donor advised fund with $50,000 and then advise distributions throughout the year. So your charities are still receiving the same amount of donations they normally are at the same time, but you're able to bundle those deductions and get a higher deduction 1 year and then take the standard deduction the next year. So that's worked really well with some of our donors, and something that I think is just important to keep in mind. We do a lot of donor advised fund establishment at the end of the year because of the flexibility it provides to donors. And then again, receiving that charitable deduction at the time that they make the gift. The other way folks sometimes will use donor advised funds is if they have a private foundation. Private foundations have to distribute a certain percentage of their assets under management every year. Well, sometimes the family may not have a chance to get together, or they haven't decided how to distribute everything. They can establish a donor advised fund, distribute whatever percentage is left there, and then again, make their distributions throughout the year or the next year following their normal procedures. So again, I would just say highly flexible tool for giving is a donor advised fund. We offer those through Waco Foundation and support 501c3 nonprofits throughout the country with 501c3 funds. Another popular way to give is through retirement assets. So specifically, I'll talk a little bit about the IRA charitable rollover. And if you have questions, Harry Harlick is probably the person to talk to. He is very well versed in IRA charitable rollovers, and he and I have had lots of conversations about this in the past. But essentially, donors who have reached age 70 and a half are able to donate up to $100,000 from their IRA directly to a public charity. So the donor is able to exclude the rollover from their taxable income. And it's become a really popular way for folks to make, who don't need the income from their IRA, to make charitable donations. Waco Foundation receives IRA charitable distributions. Sometimes the donor will want to give to 3 or 4 or maybe 5 charities. And it's a little bit cumbersome to work with your IRA administrator and get all of those out. So they'll make the gift to Waco Foundation, that's just one, and then they'll instruct Waco Foundation separately on the different organizations they want to give to. So we can take the donation and then again distribute it to the different nonprofits that the donor advises. That's a very streamlined way of doing it. We work with a lot of IRA administrators. They pretty much have the process down pat. And again, we don't charge any administrative fees for that too. It's simply a way for us to facilitate charitable giving. So this year, specifically related to the CARES Act, donors who plan to itemize their deductions could also contribute or consider a contribution from a different type of retirement account, such as a 401k or a 403b. So historically, well, and even today, the IRA charitable distribution is just for IRAs, and they haven't had an equal provision for 401ks or 403bs or other types of retirement accounts. So it's always possible to donate retirement assets by cashing them out, paying the income tax, and then distributing it to the charity. But Typically, you remember there's only a 60% AGI. You're only able to deduct up to 60% of your gross income. And this year, you're able to increase that to 100%. So there could be virtually no tax associated with a distribution from a 401k or a 403b. And we anticipate that only being available this year. So to kind of summarize, the IRA charitable rollover is permanent. It's a permanent provision. It's available every year. The incentives for donating from a 401k or a 403b are specifically related to the CARES Act and would need to be done in 2020. So kind of the last piece I wanted to review for giving is planned giving. And that's when a donor decides to include charity in their estate plan. So Waco Foundation started looking at this several years ago. We did a transfer of wealth study in our region and learned that the generation transferring wealth right now stands to transfer up to about $80 billion in assets. And so it's a good time for charities to visit with their donors who give year over year and talk to them about including charity as part of their estate plans. We also surveyed our nonprofit community, and while they were very eager to participate in this, they typically did not have the capacity to have plan giving staff on site. So you're typically talking about a CPA or an attorney or something like that who knows the ins and outs of planned giving. The Waco Foundation we kind of took all of this information and we decided to establish a plan giving program at the foundation for the benefit of nonprofits in our community. The plan giving program is called Pie Society. So any donor that decides to leave any estate gift to any local charity, so I just want to clarify, it's not Waco Foundation, it's to any local charity, is a member of Pie Society. Waco Foundation facilitates and stewards those donors. We work very closely with the nonprofits. In fact, the nonprofits are probably our biggest advocate for this because they're the ultimate beneficiaries of many of these gifts. And so they work with us to kind of steward and continue to facilitate them. And then we provide all of the back end labor for that. So we have folks on staff who are great at structuring gifts. They can take a look at your whole Pie Society, and talk to you and your advisor about what may benefit the donor and the charity the most. So there's lots of different structures, gift annuities, simple bequests, again, retirement assets, life insurance, things like that. So I would say that Pie Society, what Waco Foundation can offer to our Pie Society members or folks who are interested in becoming Pie Society members is that planning piece, that charitable expertise for planning. So we come in with you and your advisor and talk about what's your goal, what's your charitable goal, and how can we best get there in a way that has positive tax implications for you and your family, and then also provides the most for charity. So I would encourage folks, if that is an interest, to visit wacopiesociety.org. It has all of the mechanics of Pie Society, or reach out to myself or Waco Foundation. Visit our website, and we have folks in-house who are ready to talk about these things and ready to work with you to plan your legacy gift. And I'm so honored that and proud that there are several Rotarians who are already Pie Society members. So I thought we could just go through that quickly. Ashley Allison, George Chase, Krista Cluett, Jim Haller, Harry Harlick, Susie Pakel, James Rainey, and George Springer are all Pie Society members. They have all named local charities in their estate plans. And I'm sure there are probably more, and we would love to know. There's no solicitation as a Pie Society member. It truly is just a stewardship, a group of folks who have said, we're going to do this. And we hope that that encourages other folks to do it. And again, just as a reminder, Rotary Foundation, the Youth Service Fund, and the Scholarship Fund all count as charitable beneficiaries. So if Rotarians have an interest, maybe you give to these causes every year, and you want to leave a piece of your estate to continue to support this after your lifetime. So maybe you give $5,000 a year to Rotary Foundation. You could set something up in your estate plan so that that gift continues after your lifetime. They can count on your charitable support. That would count as a Pi Society member. So again, if you are ready to sign up, you've already done this, visit wacopisociety.org and you can just sign up online and say, hey, I've already done this. Or if it's something that you're thinking about and you'd like to talk more about it, call us, give me a call, and we can get that conversation started. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen. Are there any, I don't know if we do questions.
We do, and we've asked for them in the chat if anybody has any questions, and we haven't seen any as of yet. So I think you are free. We'll give it 10 more seconds just to make sure that there's no questions, but we appreciate you doing that today. Natalie can be contacted at the Waco Foundation online. The Waco Foundation email addresses are on the website. And so if there's someone who has made a charitable gift and wants to be a part of Pi Society or wants to follow up on the information that's presented today because you have questions about it, or maybe you know someone who, and she just put her email address in the chat if you want to contact her later, you're welcome to do that. We're used to taking lots of calls from all throughout the community at the end of the year because we have a lot of Wacoans that are very generous and want to support the charities they care about. So we appreciate you sharing today about all of that, Natalie, and we thank Rotarians for supporting the things at Rotary that you do and for supporting the rest of the community. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
So the last piece of for the day, we're going to hear actually from, I've asked Rosemary Rayfuse, Rosemary Mays Rayfuse. I'm going to call you Mays Rayfuse, I think, forever, Rosemary.
That's right.
She's going to actually talk about the way we use the Youth Service Fund donations by we do have the Youth Service Fund that has just been, we received a solicitation from that. You've seen it with your due statement, but I asked her if she would share a little bit about how we use those funds so that you're very clear about that. So I'm going to introduce Rosemary because I want you to know a little bit about her. We haven't featured her yet. And then she's going to talk about how we use those donations and for the committee that she chairs. After 12 years as Regional Director of Scott and White Health Plan in 2014, Rosemary Rayfuse founded Rosemary Mays LLC, a company focused on employee health plans and education. A career volunteer, Rosemary has served the community in various roles, including Director of the Heart of Texas Fair and Rodeo and Chair of numerous chamber committees. She received the 2019 Athena Award in recognition of her excellence in leadership. One of the first women nominated to the Waco Rotary Club, Rosemary serves as chairman of the Youth Citizenship Awards Committee and sits on the board of directors. Currently, Rosemary serves as the assistant governor for District 5870 and will be the conference coordinator for the 2022 district conference. And I don't know if Rotarians are aware of this, but this is actually going to be in Waco. And so we're going to be hosting the whole district here to show off our community. And Rosemary started work on this last year, and she's going to spearhead, I'm sure, a great effort to showcase Waco when we have people from all over the district visiting them. In late 2019, Rosemary was approached by the Waco Aviation Alliance to consider forming a chapter of the Women in Aviation International. Considering her past experience as an executive director of the Texas Air Expo and her great organizational skills. The Central Texas chapter of Women in Aviation was chartered in July 2019, and I can tell you from working with Rosemary on the board for the past few years that I can vouch she is a strong, dependable leader and a great asset to our club. I've asked Rosemary to provide some remarks today, so we're going to hear a few words from her about the Youth Service Fund contributions and how she and her committee are hoping to receive a whole lot of those and what they're going to do with them. So Rosemary, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ashley, and hello, fellow Rotarians. This is a great way to segue into what I want to talk about today, and that is contributing to the Youth Services Fund. You see that little mark on your dues, that's an option to give to the YSF, I think it's called on that, and a suggested amount. And I can tell you that over the past few years, we haven't been diligent about giving to the Youth Services Fund. And so today I'm going to tell you why it is so important that we keep this fund going. The Waco Rotary Club has been dedicated to education, and I believe it is one of our premier community projects. Our Rotary commitment to education has evolved into 3 major programs. The first is the Student Guest Program. You saw the young lady from Axtell today virtually. When we are back meeting in person, we will then again be able to meet our selected student guests. The very first student guests were from Waco High, and that was in 1955. So we've kept this going, we've improved, we've been able to move with the way the world is today. And so that's one for sure reason why you should give to the Youth Services Fund. The next one is our challenge program. Did you realize the challenge program, which is featured, an example would be the College Bowl, was established in 1967. And the very first Challenge Bowl was a contest. The finalists were Richfield High and Waco High, and Richfield was the very first challenge winners. This is a strong relationship we have with KWTX. These programs I'm describing to you are very unique to the Waco Rotary Club. These are not national or statewide Rotary programs. These are some that we've developed and improved and supported for many years. And then of course, the third program that is supported by the Youth Services Fund is the Youth Citizenship Awards Program. 2021 will bring the 41st annual awards program. We're not sure what it's going to look like this year, but you will recall in the past, except for this year, we had the luncheon and we introduced all of the applicants. This is something the students, the parents, and the schools look forward to every year. We have over 26 high schools who nominate one student. They apply for the Youth Citizenship Award. After judging the applicants, 5 finalists share scholarships totaling $12,000. So you can see that we have to have a strong budget and able to provide these 3 programs that are a center of our Rotary Club. We are challenged this year, as all other organizations are, when it comes to how our programs are going to look, but we are very dedicated to make sure that they do happen, that we give our scholarship money out, that we have our student guests represented, and that we have some form of our challenge program. And how it's going to look, we don't know, but we're working on it. So therefore, we are very diligent, the committee chairs are, in their budget. Our total budget is $17,500. So we've decided that if what you see on your statement is a total of an $80 commitment annually to the Youth Services Fund. We have, so if every member gives, you're certainly allowed to give more. We hope that all all Rotarians will make their mark in giving to the Youth Services Fund this year. And as Natalie explained, it's not too late. We can still accept contributions if you missed giving when you got your last due statement. So to help us to continue these worthwhile programs that Wacoans expect